Hello, Bros with Banjos. This is going to be a demonstration of how to use some of the tools available to you more effectively, how to create Weakauras, and a proper UI setup. Let's get started. So, I get asked a lot, have you uploaded the logs yet? And from now on, my answer to that question is going to be, have you actually gone through and used the logs effectively yet? Because I've noticed that a lot of people in the guild have not done so, and it's starting to become very noticeable from what I've been seeing. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you kind of how to use Warcraft logs, because I don't think a lot of the guild actually know how to do that. So you go to Warcraft logs. Default is going to be here at the top, loading screen. If you're logged in, you can see all of our calendars. Otherwise, you would go to the bars here and you click whichever fight you want. So for us, we are going to go to Shriek Wing. Nice easy boss. We have a few pulls on for sure. And you pick your class, you pick your spec, and you're good to go. At that point there, you're going to go to the fight itself. You click the fight. I just clicked on myself, and I clicked on damage, and I can see my damage breakdown. And most people are just going to leave it here. But if you actually want to get better, you have to compare yourself to the people who are doing the best. So that's what we're going to do. This is a guy named Thick Brew. He was the number, I think it was like 13 brewmaster. I chose him because he also is the top one that uses chart passions, which is what I'm using. So I know we're going to have something in common as far as what we're doing. So first thing you want to look at in Warcraft logs is, am I casting things enough? So I can look here and I mean, we did a 5-minute kill. He did a 307. So I'm going to pare our kill down to 307. So we have the same time. 308 is good enough. That way I'm comparing the same data sets. So I know that I casted Keg Smash 22 times. He casted it 24 times. Could have done a little bit better. But 2 off, it's not bad. I have 2 Evoke Nazaus. He has 2 Invoke Nazaus. I have 24 Blackout Kicks. He has 32. So that's pretty bad. I mean, I lost 8 Blackout Kicks. That is an average of, well, 1.6. 1.6 times 8 is... I can't do math right now. I'm very tired, but, you know, not enough that I want to just give it up. Rushing Jade Wind. I had 24 casts. He had 23. I mean, just keep that on cooldown. Except you see where I'm going here, right? So I know I need a Blackout Kick more. And looks like I also need to Breath of Fire more. And then I see, okay, well, what did he do more or less of that I didn't do? And the one thing that pops out to me is actually I did more Expel Harm, which is pretty good. But yeah. Now, at this point here, the next thing you need to figure out is how is your buff uptime? So for most DPS classes, you have some kind of damage buff, something like that you want to keep up. For example, I play a tank. Well, tanking, I want to keep up Shuffle. So I do that by pressing certain abilities. This is during the damage phase, so during the actual fight, it's a pretty good uptime. I'll let it drop a little bit there. It's not fine. You know, that's not bad. Monk is kind of a bad example, but we can Trying to think of who has an actual damage buff that they want to keep up. I think warriors do. Yeah, so Thrill Seeker. I mean, you should go here. If you have a buff that you need to keep up, actually, Hunters might. Hunters might. I think you guys have the, yeah, Barb Shot. So, Barb Shot, trying to get like this back to back and get it extended. So, it stacks 3 times. So, make sure you get the 3 stacks. You're not just doing one, let it drop off, one, let it drop off. So it's duration of 8 seconds. So if you do it, for example, for 7 seconds, you refresh it, you have 2 stacks, and you gain another 8 seconds, and 7 seconds again, you have 3 stacks for another 8 seconds. And if you had done letting it drop off, then it's going to be only 30% for 24 seconds instead of 30% for 8, 30% or 60% for 15, and 90% for 22. Right? So it's things like that. So once you figure that out, okay, I have a good uptime. Or if you play a debuff class, for example, you play Affliction Warlock or a Boomkin or something like that, you can look here and say, did I keep my dots up? How is my dot uptime? Did I let it fall? Right? And then, for a lot of damage dealers, I think a really important one is going to be getting your opener down. It's going to be the most significant portion of your rotation. And I can show you how to kind of do that. So you go to casts, you go to events. And I can see this is what I did on pull. And I find this thick brew guy. And I go to casts. And I go to events. Alright, so I see that I keg smashed and then I rushing Jade Winded. And then I blackout kicked. He keg smashed, blackout kicked. So he didn't rushing Jade Wind there. He probably casted it pre-pull, which I did as well, but I refreshed it. It's probably not the thing I should be focusing on right at the pull, so that's something I got to keep an eye on. And then I Purifying Brew. At this point here, I know that's a mistake. From a defensive standpoint, I'm using that to pump my Nizao damage, which I'm casting right here. But it probably isn't as effective as I was hoping it would be. But we both then Breath of Fire, and then I keg smash and then blackout kick. He Russian Jade Wind Nizao is blackout kick, Tiger Palm, keg smash. So we have a different opener. For a tank, it's somewhat dependent on certain things. For most DPS classes, I mean, that should be something that you perfect and you get in the same order every single time. So you want to keep, make sure that you're doing your things right. And you have to think of things like, I'm going to use TVD as an example. So if you look at TVD, he has a potion and he has his Demonic Tyrant. So Demonic Tyrant lasts for 15 seconds and he wants the maximum damage during that window. So he has his potion for 25 seconds here. Now, he could have potioned somewhere up in here as well, right? Now, had he potioned on pull, pre-pull, which is what you would have done had this been BFA, that potion, 25-second duration, would have worn out somewhere around here. And if he casts his Demonic Tyrant, which is a 15-second duration, it would wear out down here, which means for 5 seconds of his Demonic Tyrant, he doesn't have his pull, right? He doesn't have his pod, I should say. So that's what I'm talking about when I say spell synergy, right? So he wants to have his potion for the entire time he has Demonic Tyrant out to boost his damage while he has the 15%, right? So he's stacking that 15% with the intellect, which is increasing the value of his potion, right? If you're a shaman, for example, you have Elemental Blast, right? Elemental Blast gives you crit, mastery, or haste. If you mix that with, say, trinket proc plus potion, etc., whatever other procs you have, you're now amplifying all of them. It's an exponential equation. So that's the kind of thing that you have to look at. Am I casting things in the right order, right? So if I go back to myself, for example, so I know I made a mistake here. The mistake is I blackout kicked, then I breath of fired. Pre Shadowlands, and if I don't use the Charred Passions legendary, this would be correct. That is the correct one, because blackout kick does more damage. I want to get it on cooldown faster, but I have Charred Passions, and I know that blackout kick procs extra damage if it's cast on a target that has the breath of fire dot and it refreshes the dot. So this definitely should have been backwards. So that's a mistake. And it's that kind of thing that you guys need to start looking at and figuring out for yourself is, am I doing it correct? Am I doing it perfect? And if not, how can I make it perfect, right? Coming to Warcraft Logs every week, going, oh, rankings. How did I do on rankings? Unfortunately, I did either good or bad, and then you close the window. You just go, okay, well, I'm done with that. That's fine. But it should not be like that. Now, I'm going to show you some more tools. So, first one is going to be WowAnalyzer. This is not available for all classes, unfortunately, yet. But we could take myself. So, it has a checklist. So, I know, use Celestial Brew effectively. So I sometimes maybe didn't use it the right time, and I didn't absorb the effect a lot. But I keep it on cooldown, a decent amount, 80% of the time. I mean, it's fine, but I definitely can do better. So that's something I need to work on myself. Keg Smash. We knew from looking at the other guy, I missed a couple Keg Smashes, so I know I need to make that a bit better. And same with Blackout Kick. I was really bad, and it shows, right? So this kind of stuff here, you can see the timeline. So you can see when you're using all your abilities. And it even has, like you see here, this bar is Time Warp, right? This is my potion. This is this gray one. So I know my potion is going to wear out somewhere around, well, no, it's a minute, so it's going to be somewhere around, or 40 seconds. How long does this last? 25 seconds. So I can look at here and I can say, okay, well, my potion's probably going to wear out somewhere around here. And it shows me, okay, well, the following spell were available during this GCD, Breath of Fire. So I did this backwards, right? I should have Breath of Fired, then done my Tiger Palm. And same thing here. I Tiger Palmed, then I did Keg Smash, then I did Blackout Kick. So I should have done that backwards, right? So that's something I did wrong. Now you can see that and you can look and say, okay, how do we make that better? And you can see also all your cooldowns down here. My Refreshing Jade Wind, so I had a bit of a delay there, right? I had a bit of a delay. You can go on from there. And there's whole sorts of stats, right? So like Celestial Fortune, This is bonus healing for a monk, right? Or stagger. I can kind of see if I'm dipping, if I'm using it weird spots. You know, you can keep going. Statistics. You know, if you see a number here and you're like, that's kind of low, try and make it better, right? Your uptime, your downtime, my effective brew reduction, stuff like that. So there's a whole sorts of tools you can use on WowAnalyzer that's going to help you dramatically increase your playstyle. And this is more of a raid leading tool, but Wipefest is another good one. So Wipefest is going to tell you, well, why'd you die, right? So we take this and stood in line of sight when he casts ear splitting shriek. So auto, Wintermorn, Borms. So 3 and then 2. So a bunch of people got 2. I got 2. A bunch of people got 1, right? So that's probably something that you can avoid. So if you consistently die to that, maybe it's something you have to watch out for, right? So there's all sorts of tools that you can look at here and figure out if I died, why'd I die, and you can keep going from there. One I know here, so I know on Death Gap, no, it's one of the ones that the murder prey hit them through the pillar. But you can see here Death Recap, and you can see what they had available. Obviously, none of this would have helped if it was a one-shot. And you see, okay, well, I got healing before that. Well, maybe it was a lack of heals, right? Sometimes that's a thing. Sometimes it was I didn't pop a personal, or I didn't have a debuff up. Stuff like that. So you can kind of see whether or not you did things correct. And then the last one is going to be Raidbots, everyone's favorite tool. So most people, they go into Raidbots and they send their character and they go, I'm supposed to do 9.7 DPS. And they get into game and either they do or they don't. But that is not how this tool should be used. This tool is for comparing yourself against yourself from a mathematical standpoint. It's not always going to be perfect. The way this tool should be used is, okay, well, I have 2 options for enchants. I have Sinful Revelation, Lightless Force, Single Target AoE, right? And you can go in here and you can find your top gear, and it's going to take a second while that's going. I'm going to show you guys also on Warcraft Logs the mechanics, so you can kind of see who didn't use a potion. So I didn't, apparently. I used it pre-pull, actually. I think I pre-pulled with my potion there. Hellstone wasn't in any danger, so I didn't bother using one. Didn't have any deaths. Eye level doesn't mean really much. You can see, okay, well, who took damage from things? So like Blind Swipe, Ear Splitting Shriek, Descent. If you notice that actually Borms got hit a couple times, he bubbled it, I'm pretty sure, because he didn't take any damage to it. Echoing Screech. So like, that's not good. I should do better, right? And then we go here. This is done, and I can see, okay, well, single target, Sinful Revelation, and Lightless Force combination is probably going to be more DPS. Right, so that's something I could consider. 16 DPS. Single target is not worth changing it up because we do have the content. So M plus double proc is going to be better for the dog boss, the bear boss, whatever you call huntsman. Double proc is going to be better when they're stacked up. For Sun King, it's going to be better. For general, it's going to be better. For the last boss, it's going to be better. So you got to think about, you know, kind of all the scenarios in that regard. And that's Warcraft Logs and some of the tools that are associated with it. If you have any further questions on that, hit me up personally. Let's move on to some Weakauras. So I fucking love Weakauras. You will see this is all a Weakaura. These are Weakauras. This is Weakauras. This is a Weakaura. And I have 2,500 Weakauras. I have everything Weakauras. If my File of Serenity is not on, I have a Weakaura. If my durability is low, I have a Weakaura. If my cast bar is interruptible, I have a Weakaura. This is my misdirect Weakauras. I have Weakaura for trinket reminders. I have Weakauras for all of my auras, if I get auras. I have one for my Shadestone, so I know whether to use it every day. I have one for just a simple combat timer. One to tell me, hey, your armor kit's about to fall off. Go put that back on. Right? One for the raids. Hopefully everyone has that. And I have all sorts of tools. One for the dungeons, so I know when certain mechanics are coming up, similar to the raid. One for banners when we were leveling to track things. One to auto mark targets. It's so powerful. And I don't expect you to use any of that shit. Half of that shit I mentioned, at least. What I do expect you to use is to have the ability to create a Weakaura to track something you need to track. So, let's say, for example, that I didn't have my Weakauras and I wanted to make one to track, say, my blackout kick. Or a keg smash, actually. Keg smash is my #1 ability. That's what I use the most. So I go to aura and I go to icon. And from icon, it doesn't have anything, right? So trigger. So trigger is what will trigger this by essentially what will be true to make this appear on the screen. So I should say it was nested under Paladin because I had that clicked when I hit new. You gotta make sure you don't have anything clicked. Otherwise, you can use the arrows to move it out. All right, so I don't want to track an aura right now, or it's buffed and debuffed. I want to track a status. The status I want to track is going to be cooldown progress spell, and I would want this to be keg smash. And on cooldown, it's probably not super helpful if I want to see it, so I can say not on cooldown. So now I have it there. It's in the middle of my screen, which is super obnoxious. And I go to this Guardian, and I say, okay, I'm going to use Keg Smash. And now it disappears. And in 2, 1, it's going to come back up. So now I know to press it again. So maybe you want to take this a step further. Maybe you want to say, well, I want to always show it, but I also want to have the cooldown show, right?
Salutations.
So now I see it's coming up in 6 seconds, and I need to cast it, right? So that's doubling like your action bars, that right? So you have your action bar there. I have my action bars hidden down here, and they're both. I can see it. So instead of looking at my action bar, now I can look at my Weakaura. And now I go, okay, well, it was still kind of bright. It wasn't super obvious that it was on cooldown. You know, maybe there wasn't the big number in the middle, right? So you can go to conditions, and I can say if on cooldown is equal to true, then I can take it and I can desaturate it, right? Or I can also take it and I can say, I could take the color and I can make it red. So now I know
I await
very clearly it's on cooldown because it's red, right? But because of spell queuing, which I will show you in a second, actually I'll show you that right now, that's important. So because of spell queuing, which is an interface option through through I'm actually not sure where they moved it to anymore. I guess they got rid of it. Interesting. Okay, well, never mind on that one. There's no more spell queuing. Okay, so there's no more spell queuing, but there used to be a thing where you could queue up spells up to 400 seconds to avoid latency, but I guess they removed that from the game. But either way, I want to make sure that I can use this when I know for sure that it should be the next button I spell. So I can go here and I can add a condition, and I can say if the remaining duration, yes. Yeah, the remaining duration is less than or equal to 1, actually we'll do 0.5 seconds, then I can take the color and make it green.
Welcome, Walker.
So then I know, as I'm fighting this guy, okay, now it's green. Now I press it again. It was still on cooldown, but you can still press it because of latency. Right? So I know, oh, it's green. Boom. So technically, it's still on cooldown, but you can still press it. Right? And you can do that with all sorts of ones. If you like yours to be all together, you can do a group. So let's say I want a group, and then I can take this, I can drag it inside, or you can take this arrow, you can put inside the group. Now you have it. And then if I wanted a second one, you can have both of them. So now you have two. And you can move them around together. Super convenient, and you can name the group. So that is the display tab, the trigger, actually not display tab, sorry, that's the trigger tab and the conditions tab. Those are the two most important ones. Now, display is where you can get fancy with how it looks. One thing I always like to do is I zoom that in for 30% so it's nice and clean. Just looks a little bit better. It has the border taken off of it. You can show cooldown. You can show cooldown and cooldown swipe. You can have the tooltip on mouse over, so I can see that's Keg Smash. I know exactly what that does now, right? I can read it. You can change the height. You can change the offset. So the offset is just going to move it either left or right. Obviously, you don't want to really do those together. And then you can go down to the text options. Now, this is where it can get kind of complicated, but for example, let's say I don't want this show cooldown there because that's just the default. And I say, okay, well, instead, I want to show the progress of the spell in the bottom corner, for example.
You appear to be malfunctioning.
So now I have one in the bottom corner and one in the middle, right? So you can do that, and you can put it kind of wherever you want. And if you want to do stacks, now this is not a spell that has stacks, but eventually I will at some point try out Stormstout's Last Keg, which gives it an additional charge So you can have it show charges and all sorts of information. You can change the anchor. So let's say, so that was inner bottom right. Now that's kind of ugly. Well, what if I did maybe the outer and the top? And I'll change that back to P so I actually have something I'm tracking. And it's kind of small, right? So we can take this size and we want it nice and big. And maybe we're not too happy with the decimal places. So we can format here. We just go 12. Never know. That is going to be different. Now these are actually slightly different. I think this one was the more accurate one actually. So it's something to note. So that's text. And let's say you want it to glow, right? You have a glow. You can make it glow like your action bar. There's different types of glows. You can change the color. Or what you could do is you could say glow visibility is ticked. So now it's going to be green glowing at the same time, and I have the timer. I know to use it. So that, lots of options there. Actions, this is how you put a sound on it. This is Borms' favorite. Now I go here, and I say, okay, well, I wanted to play an air horn, right, on show. Or you can do a condition change here, and you can say sound, not loop, play a...
I'm gonna barbecue your ass!
That's kind of obnoxious, but you know, you can do that, right? And you could put a glow on it on hide or show. Animations, let's say you want it to, so you want to go, you know, 1990s PowerPoint presentation. You can have it bounce in, right? And then while it's up, you want it to kind of like pulse. So then it's going to pulse, right? You can do stuff like that. And load. It's going to have it load only in combat. Or not in combat, in encounters. And say I'm a monk. So I can go down here to monk. Talent spec. Only Brewmaster has this spell. So we can load it there. And let's say I only want to see this if I have, I don't know, Retching Jade Wind is what I have. You do that too. If your covenant, your race, your faction level, all sorts of stuff. Let's say you're on a fight. You're fighting the other side. Is 1680 is one of the bosses. Or Castle Nathria. So there's the last boss, 1748, which is going to be Sardonathrius. You want to only show on Sardonathrius because you really want to keg smash him, right? All sorts of stuff. Custom options probably won't need yourself if you're making your own Weakauras, and then information you don't need. So that's a basic how-to on Weakauras. One of the other ones I really like I'll show you is not that, a bar. So let's say a progress bar, and I want to track Breath of Fire, for example. All right. So Breath of Fire is an aura. It is on the target. It is a debuff, and it has the name of Breath of Fire. And I want to show it when it's found. And you can leave that there, so I know.
I await your instructions.
That's not going the target. There. So Breath of Fire is tracked here, but now I also have it right there. So I can see my Breath of Fire on the target. So I know this is a important factor for Brewmaster, at least, because I know that Breath of Fire, while on the target, makes them do 5% less damage to me. So I can track that. And you can do that with your dots, you can do that with your buffs. Once I'm out of combat. Oh, I'm in combat with that guy. So once I'm out of combat, I will show you, well, maybe I don't want to track Breath of Fire. Maybe I actually want to track my legendary, which is Charred Passions. Now, Charred Passions is a buff, and that buff is on me. So we go to player. And now I see my Charred Passions. Now I know I have it on me. I also show it right there. Right? And you can do all sorts of stuff. Let's say you have not found a energy bar. Let's say you play a monk or a rogue. You're like, I haven't seen an energy bar that I really like, and I want it to change color when I can use an ability, right? That's one I love. So you can go here, and you can go to power, and you want it to only show up if it's energy, right? So now I have the bar. It's red by default, but we can add a condition, which is if the power is greater than or equal to 40, then I'm going to take the bar color, I'll make it white. That works. So now I have an energy bar, right? It fills up and does things. So I know that when it's white, now I can't, right, it's red, I can't kick smash, I can't press that, it's red, I gotta wait. Now I know. So I gotta make sure that it goes white at the same time this comes off cooldown. You know, stuff like that. So it's all sorts of stuff you can do. And once again, if there's something more you need, you have a question, feel free to ask me anytime. And the last thing I want to talk about is a proper UI and how it's going to help you be a more effective raider. So when you're raiding, the one place that you want to look is going to be in the center of your screen. So if this circle, right, where these two Elysian guards is around me, this is the center of the screen, so where my character is, this is going to be the most needed place for my eyes to be. I do not want my eyes to leave this area, especially this area around my character. So my health bar is quite close. I don't have to move my head or barely move my eyes to see it. It's not my peripheral, so it's not hard to see. My target and all of my abilities are right here. So I'm not looking all the way down here for my blackout kick and then stand and fire, right? I don't need to look at the top corner of my screen if I had my health frame up there. For my health, go, oh, I'm dying. Oh, I looked away. No, I'm standing in fire. Now I'm dying more. Now I'm panicking. Now I'm dead, right? And my buffs. Now, tracking my buffs here, I don't really look at those. Anything that's actually important is going to show up right underneath my character. It's the most effective. And if I have a debuff, it's going to show right here beside my health frame, where it's most important. And you can clearly see that I also have things grouped, right? So I have my main offensive spells right here, right beside my kick, beside a heal, my purifying brew, and then my 3 big cooldowns. So that's Celestial Brew, Fortifying Brew, beside each other, so I can know very easily with one glance, I can see both of them at the same time. I have my trinkets, my Covenant ability, and then a couple of things I want to keep an eye on. That mostly it's, you know, is Nizao available? Can I press Russian Jade Wind, right? And then Touch of Death. My Curium Potion down there. And that will also show things like if I have my ring of peace, or if I leg sweep, or something like that, right? And I have my potions. So I have my health stone, my potion right underneath my health frame. If I see my health dipping, I can look, oh, I have a potion I can use. I can use it there. Or I have a DPS potion, and that'll be used there. That's a Weakaura that is pretty handy one, but I mean, that necessarily isn't something you really need. You can do the same thing with other stuff, but it's pretty good. But if you notice, there's not a lot of clutter on my screen, right? It's very open. I don't. So, for example, Tiger Palm. Tiger Palm costs 25 energy, so I can watch my energy tracker for Tiger Palm. So I don't need to show it on my screen. That's why that bar is hidden. So now, instead of it being on my screen, taking up real estate of what I can see on my underneath my character, it's gone. I don't have to worry about it. I just watch the same thing I watch for everything else. Same thing with spinning crane kick. Ring of Peace. I'm not going to use it on cooldown, most likely. And I only need to know if it is available or not. It's not super important, so it can be down there, right? Same thing with paralysis. And like Vivify. I don't need that on my bars. I know it's S3 of Vivify. We're good to go. Also, if you notice there, the cast bar is a Weakauras. If that's interruptible, it is green. And if it's not interruptible, it'll be red. And if it's interruptible, it plays a sound as well. I guess you can interrupt mounts. I don't think I have any non-interruptible casts, but you get the point. And the last thing as well is, don't click your abilities, please. I see a few people do that, and it's not really an elitist thing. That's more just, it's faster to have your finger on the button and press a button than it is to take your mouse, move it all the way down, click something, and then move. If you're standing in fire or you need to handle a mechanic, your reaction time is going to suffer, and you are going to either panic or die. Hopefully this was all helpful. If you have any further questions, please hit me up individually, and hopefully this helps some people use the tools that are most to their advantage. Thanks. Have a great day.